Alright, so this next Photoshop 101 video, we're going to go over the art history brush and the history brush, or hotkey Y. So you're pressing Y will get you to that brush there. So to start out with the history brushes, we're actually going to look over on this side of your screen here. At the very top, you're going to have the little three squares with the little arrow. It's going to be the history panel. So we're going to go ahead and open up that panel. The first section there is history. The second section is actions. We can ignore the actions for now. That's something that we'll go over later on in the future. But in the history panel, it's everything that you've done to this document, from the start of it opening to everything that you've modified or changed inside of it. So this will allow you to go in and delete specific things or erase specific things that happened in it. This section here for the actual history brush, I don't use this ever. It's easier for me whenever I make a mistake to just hit Control Z to remove that mistake. I tend not to leave mistakes to the very end. It doesn't make sense. Like once you know you've made one, just kind of get rid of it. But what this brush does essentially is to say, we'll go to our regular brush tool, and we'll draw, a line on this, and then we think, oh no, we don't need that line or don't want that line on there. So we will go to the history brush. We'll select a brush. You can select any brush in here, really, it doesn't matter. A hard brush probably works better. A hard brush is here in your default brushes, so like a hard round brush is a good brush. It's a large size. And essentially you're just going to draw over the mistake that you made, and it's just going to revert your image back to the normal state. It's a little bit better than what the eraser tool can accomplish as far as making a mistake there, but nowhere near as powerful as just hitting Control Z to undo a mistake that you've made. Now, with the art history brush, is a completely different style brush than the history brush. It's actually a really cool brush, something that I'm trying to get into using a little bit more, making more, not necessarily for sublimation designs, but just designs in general, and just pretty cool art. And essentially what the art history brush does is it gives you the ability to turn an image like this cute little pit bull puppy into like a painting. So you can use any brush to do this, but ideally you're going to want to use a small brush. And essentially what it does is it's going to take and sample all of these colors that are here within the brush area and make them look more like paint strokes. So if I were to just click here, it's going to take all those grays and kind of mend them together. And this doesn't look super great because the brush size is massive. So it's not something that you're going to want to use a massive brush for. As you can tell, it doesn't look awesome. You can't really see any defined areas of the pit bull. So we'll go ahead and hit Control Z to erase those things. And we're going to go set our brush size down to, like, say I don't know, we'll go to like a 5 or a 6. We'll go to an 8. You can set different modes here. Normal is probably what you're going to want to use. You can darken or lighten, change hue, saturation, color, all that stuff. But I would say stick with normal. Leave the opacity at 100, and then you have the option to select different styles of paint strokes. So tight short paint stroke is going to give you something that just looks like a little dot. That's not too bad. Tight medium is going to be a little bit more, and then so on and so forth. I like to use dab. It's kind of like a paint dab. If you're dabbing the paint on it, it gives it more of a painter-esque feel to me. The area, I think it's set to a default of 50 pixels. The difference between those two, I like to go a smaller pixel size. It's going to sample up to 50 pixels around the area of where you're pressing down. So whenever you go into multiple colors here, you kind of get a weird blend of the colors, especially around like an eye or something like that, where you need some sort of detail. you kind of lose that detail by going into the eye with 50, so I set it to about 10. And the cool thing with this brush is you can go back over any of the mistakes that you made, and it will change those based off of the original image, not based off of the paint daubs that are already there. And essentially you're just going to go over and you're just going to color the entire image. It's a really fun tool. It's something that I've not used a whole lot, but like I said, I'm going to try and get into using it a little bit more, because you can create some really awesome art for some people, especially, you know, animals or things like that. It's a pretty cool little concept here, being able to turn someone's animal into actual art. You can also use any brush for this. So right now I've just got that hard round brush, but say I want to use a different, you know, wet sponge brush. I don't know what this is going to turn out to look like, but that's something it's a very experimental thing. Seeing that brush doesn't look too bad either. It kind of gives it a little bit of a wet look when they're running together, much more like actual painting, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this art history brush is really good for just experimenting, messing with. It's a lot of fun to be able to paint and change something from something that's realistic to looking like an actual painting. You can do this pretty much on any image, so that's pretty cool. One thing I will say that I forgot to mention at the start of this video is make sure that whatever image that you're going to be modifying or changing is the only layer that's there. It makes it a lot easier. You can add layers on top of it and whatnot, but when you click on this history at the very top, you're going to want that little paintbrush marker to be clicked on the image that you're actually painting. That way it knows where to sample from, like what section of each canvas to sample from. But yeah, it's a really cool brush effect. You know, we can make it larger and do the body down here, or make it smaller to fix those areas that, you know, didn't look great with a large size brush. But it's an extremely cool image making tool. It's a tool that you can use for all kinds of different things, really, just to turn things into paint-like features. The next little section we're going to jump into are the eraser tools, so we'll look forward to that in the next video.